All dads play a role. Provider, disciplinarian, spider killer, light bulb changer, and of course, comic relief. Wait, what about all those serious life lessons? How would we have learned to come home early from those parties, or why we shouldn't cheat on that math test? TV dads have many roles to play, and we'll hit a bunch of them on this episode of Three-Dimensional Dads.
Exploring fatherhood in the next dimension.
I'm Jack.
I'm Derek.
And I'm Ian.
And we are three dads who are on a screen right now, but we are not TV dads.
Well, right, we're on a TV, and we are dads.
Yeah, I mean,
We're internet famous.
Yeah. If someone was watching on a TV on YouTube, we could be TV dads.
I've done it. Oh, yeah.
They're all relatable, right? All these TV dads are relatable. Like, I think that's what makes a good TV dad. Like, the dads at home can watch them and relate to them.
Right. Or not relate to them. I mean, I wonder, too, like, a lot of the shows we're talking about here, we're talking 90s, we're talking 80s. We were younger when we were watching these things. And I think it's how you relate to your own dad. It's interesting. All the answers that follow after this, I think, are interesting about what it says about ourselves.
Yes.
It's like what we saw in our own fathers, and then like type of fathers that we are, and also like what we saw on TV.
You guys had dads? Ooh, it got dark. No, my parents got divorced. So the other two men here on the screen, they come from happy homes.
But do you think that informed the type of TV dads that you? I mean, I was just reading your answers, and I'm like, interesting.
Yes, yes. At the risk of sounding kind of too serious for government work, I think not having a dad around had me looking at TV dads as sort of like an influence and a kind of reference point, of like what dads can be. So, I mean, let's just start it right off, right? I know we all are fairly goofy and we're all fairly nerdy, but who do we identify with TV dad? So I'm going to go first. My favorite TV dad is actually a more recent TV dad. It's Phil Dunphy from Modern Family. He's goofy.
Oh, yeah.
He's king of the dad jokes. He loves magic. And he's basically a man-child, which I consider myself basically a man-child. And I think we can all find a little Phil Dunphy in all of ourselves right here. But I think that, for me, he's my spirit dad.
That's a good one.
I love the Friday night like ABC lineup. So Carl Winslow to me was always like, it was kind of funny because they were very much a stereotypical family, even though they were a family of color. They were like in suburbia and he's a cop, and like they just had the normal like suburban like upbringing. And also Jason Seaver too, right? I feel like that was like the cookie cutter family, even though he had like the business out of his house and stuff too.
Yeah.
So, and he was always, he had the wild rebellious son, and then he had his picture perfect daughter. I identified with those, watching those two, growing fans. And
I was gonna say, you guys are a little older than I am, so I didn't know who Jason Seaver was.
Wow.
Yeah,
my God. Oh my God.
The show, I was like, I don't know. I watched Growing Pains.
Oh my God. Let me pluck my gray hairs out of here again.
You have gray hairs. Look at this.
God. Yeah, I know.
What about you, Ian?
All right. So the dad that I relate to, I was going to say on a serious note, Joel from Last of Us.
And that escalated.
Just started season 2. Well, I mean, I think it's a game I love so much. It's a show I watched. I just rewatched season 1 before season 2. And now that I have daughters, man, I relate to that character so much more, of like being a protective father, or what you do for your daughter, or, love for daughters. It's like, man, that show definitely makes me go hug my daughters after watching it.
Do you have like a sawed-off shotgun like underneath the sink, Ian, just in case the zombies are coming? The cauliflower burns are
Nerf shot. But then I thought, the other one I have is pretty recent. It's Bandit from Bluey. Because, I mean, that show I watch with my daughters all the time. And, man, his mix of this kind of love and support, but whimsy, like the creative play, I relate to so much. I try to be that kind of dad with my kids, that like, I'm still a dad when I need to be a dad, but we have fun and we play characters and we have imaginations and we do all sorts of stuff. So I think that's one where it's like, man, Bluey is so good, and then he's such a good dad.
Well, that sets the table, right? I mean, one thing I think our Dads on Screen series is we really look at kind of a big picture. We take like a 30,000 foot view of dads, in this particular context. So like, I think the biggest thing we can start with, like, that I think everyone will understand is like, what is that role of the TV dad? Like, are they the traditional dad? Are they aloof? Are they serious? Are they non-traditional dad figures like uncles? I personally like to call myself the funkle, the fun uncle, the funkle, right?
Oh,
what about dad's best friend? You know, like, we have all these dad roles are not just the stereotypical biological father. Like, we have a lot of dad roles. So, Derek, what do you see as these roles that we see in dads?
I think if you looked back at history, just if you look at the history of television, right? And I come to stand, I could remember going to the TV when there was static on, and there at hours where you didn't have programming, and everything was not on demand, right? So watching reruns of old stuff, to me, I grew up with that. So a lot of the Brady Bunch, Mike Brady, right? Happy Days, Howard Cunningham, right? All of these were very traditional fathers, providers. You even go Leave It to Beaver, right? I've always seen the TV dad as kind of the guy who has the pipe or comes home from work. I mean, actually, if you think about it, the Brady Bunch kind of broke the mold of like what a traditional family was. They were both, one person had lost their spouse, the other one was divorced, and they came together with this group family type of dynamic, right? So I always think that, from my history, I've always seen the father, the TV dad, as kind of the more traditional breadwinner kind of, if you will. That's what I grew up with mostly. Yeah. However, as we'll talk along this, that's kind of changed up a little bit. And there are kind of like role reversals and things as you move into the 80s and 90s, and you have shows like Modern Family too, right?
Yeah.
So
I thought a lot of it's a reaction to, some of it's reflecting current day, and some of it's reacting to like the parents that people grew up with. Is this is relatable stuff, family stuff. It always hits people in the feels. And so I was thinking, something I saw a lot growing up was this kind of lovable oaf trope.
Yes.
It was like the Homer Simpsons. It was the Peter Griffin, Earl Sinclair. They wear flannel, they drink beer, they're macho, they like simple things, and they're kind of adverse to feelings. It's kind of very like atomic father role.
Yeah.
And I think that some of the shows that I was more into as a kid were these fathers that grew up in reaction to that. It's like, I feel like that's, especially as parents, like all of us as dads, is that the type of dad we are is a reaction to the dad we had. And I know my dad was a reaction to his dad. There are certain things he kept and did or didn't do, and like changed it up. Yeah. And so I think of the like Dan Connor or Danny Tanner that are these like very emotional dads that are into their kids' emotional worlds and are much more like invested into their kids. And, it's a different kind of dad. It's a much more touchy-feely.
And those are two different kinds of dads, right? So Dan Connor is more of like that blue collar, like gruff, right? Emotional exterior. Whereas Danny Tanner is like, he's more sensitive, right? Especially given like his spouse passes away. He has these two people, his friends living in the house. Very two different roles. And
right.
That, for me, when I look at TV dads, not having a dad in my life, I always saw the role as the provider being something that I was lacking or missing. Like, my mom was the provider. My mom did the work and everything like that. So it's a little old school, kind of a little misogynist, but I think that the shows that we watch and we watched in the past, you see the dad dynamic, right? The dad's job sets his relationship with both his family and the world, right? So like, think of like Al Bundy in the shoe store. Like Al Bundy in the shoe store, like he has a terrible home life, right? He loves his wife, but he hates his wife. Like, his kids don't respect him. And then he goes to a shoe store where he's trying to stuff, size 8 shoes on size 10 women's feet. Again, a little misogynist, but like, that was a reflection of him. Tim the Toolman Taylor, right? Tim, his whole life was built around fixing things, and then he tries to fix things on the show, and thank goodness Al is there, else the studio will burn down. And don't forget about Walt and the meth lab. No Breaking Bad. No, I mean, like,
like, that's a TV dad.
That is a TV dad. And like, why does he go to cook meth? Is because his life falls apart because he has cancer and everything bad happening to him and his wife, right? Like, that's a reflection on what his role in the world is. And again, like, that's the whole like kind of symbiosis of a dad's role, right? He's the provider, but who is he providing for? He's providing for his wife, he's providing for his kids, and we see that reflected in their different jobs, how they provide to what they meth.
I'm gonna pick up your Bryan Cranston, and I'm gonna take it to our next section where we're talking about, we're talking about the mom and dad dynamic here, about like conflicts in parenting, the relationship with the mom, and like some of the examples we saw with that. So, one I always found interesting was Bryan Cranston playing Hal on Malcolm in the Middle.
A very different character than Walt from Breaking Bad.
So different, right? If you saw Hal,
slightly.
Bryan Cranston is amazing, and I love Lois on that show. She is amazing, one of my favorite characters, but she's super intense. And I always thought it was interesting watching Hal be one of the boys and like afraid of his wife, but then also his relationship. Right, where he's like trying to hide things from her, and he gets freaked out with the boys, and it's a funny role. But I think also his relationship with Lois, of like their marriage and how they talk to each other about things, because the boys are so extreme, it's so crazy on that show. They're always breaking things and getting into such trouble that watching them navigate that was always interesting.
It was kind of a cool modern take on like those old themes, like who broke the vase, or like like who broke their neighbor's fence or something like that. Like there was always some sort of like shenanigans and in that thing with Malcolm in the Middle.
And Malcolm in the Middle is coming back. They're doing a remake.
Oh my goodness, really?
Nunez is back. They're gonna do a couple more episodes.
Oh boy,
there is no original idea
social media
in all of it. I also took this kind of dad versus mom thing, and I looked at dad versus mom, and then I thought, well, what about like different kinds of spouses and partners, right? So like my first thing when I think of conflict between spouses, dad and mom, is like Homer and Marge Simpson. Like she has the patience of a saint, because, and it's a cartoon, I get it, but cartoons are very reflective of, kind of like some real world relationships. But like Homer and Marge, like patience of a saint. He's totally aloof. She has to hold it together. I think it's great. And all those couple, again, I think one of my favorite sitcoms of all times is Modern Family anyway, right? I love Modern Family. And like all three of those couples have their own kind of versus dynamic, right? You got Claire and Phil, right? Phil's a big man child. Claire has to try to be serious, but she's a working woman in the world, whilst Phil, like, he's a realtor, yes, but he's also like this giant man child who loves magic. Jay and Gloria, kind of this May, December kind of couple, older guy, younger woman. They have a very interesting, parenting dynamic, because one, she comes in with Manny, right? And then they have a kid together. So this is Jay, who's a grandfather, now becoming a father to a baby. And of course, I think the funniest relationship is Cam and Mitchell. Like that with their daughter Lilith, they adopted, like that. Like they kind of play on the stereotype as like Cam is kind of a more effeminate role. But in reality, it doesn't matter, effeminate man, woman, it doesn't matter. Like their dynamic together is just so funny. Like, and I think they're the couple that you can tell they play so much love. And I think that's great. And I think they all have very interesting conflicts and dynamics.
Going back to Marge and Homer, a direct conflict. I mean, one of my most favorite episodes of The Simpsons is when Bart and Lisa are on opposite hockey teams.
Yes.
And you couldn't spell conflict more, of like Marge trying to keep it all together. I want you to know you're not in direct competition with each other. And then Homer charges in the room and says, Lisa's team is playing Bart's team. You're going to be in direct competition with each other, fighting for your parents' love. And then he's flipping the light on and off, going, fight, fight, fight.
Yeah,
it's just like
that's a great episode.
Just the opposing opposites of like what you were just saying in terms of parenting. But like when I was taking the conflict in parenting and thinking about husband and wife, I went back to some of the classics and thinking, first was like Archie and Judith Bunker.
Oh man,
right? That's probably like one of the first husband and wives that you see that have that kind of tit for tat type of mentality to them, right? Where, they're both they love each other dearly, right? But he's the very traditional guy, and she's the one, I guess you'd say stereotypically, is like a little aloof, a little like kind of out there, but they make it work, right? Yep. Like in the end, like their marriage is like together, even though you're seeing like this tit for tat kind of like conflict with both of them. And the other one I thought like is direct conflict is Al and Peg Bundy, just like you were mentioning before, Jay, right? I mean, you couldn't get any more like they stab each other in the back, but then at the end of the day, they're trying to like they hate each other, but they love each other, type of thing. You know, he is, she's flicking the cigarette ashes in the soup while like while she's making dinner, kind of thing, right?
And he literally says sometimes, "Oh man, I could kill you."
Yes, like, exactly.
And right. at that time when that show was on, it was funny. Now,
yes,
we don't really see that.
Yeah. So what are some of our favorite TV dads from like our childhoods?
Now, okay, I have to preface this. In my house, the TV was sometimes in control by my sister. And I did not get the TV because I had a Nintendo, so I could just be like, no, watching TV. But if we were watching TV, Full House was on the TV. She loved Full House, and I used to play it off like I didn't like Full House, but I kind of liked Full House. I did. I loved it. I did love it. It was so funny. It was funny.
Oh yeah.
Candace, it was the ABC Friday Night lineup.
I know. And
you watched
I had a little
Family Matters. Just like
little crush on Candace Cameron. Little crush. Now Jodie Sweetin. She's now. But Danny Tanner. It's hard to watch now. Like, it's hard to watch with the fact that Bob Saget died. On a side note, if you've ever seen Bob Saget's stand-up comedy, he is not Danny Tanner.
No.
He is totally different, which is amazing how he played Danny Tanner. But the best thing about him was no matter what was going on, he was contagiously hopeful. I don't know if I invented that phrase, but he was contagiously hopeful. Even the fact that he lost his wife and he had to bring in his brother-in-law, former brother-in-law or brother-in-law and his best friend, because he had to raise 3 girls, one of them being an infant. Like, as a dad today, thinking about like, what if I had to raise even my one kid by myself? Like, I would want people to move in with me because I have an infant. Like, I don't know, but Danny Tanner, just contagiously hopeful, and he's goofy and he means well. And he always has, even if he's saying the wrong thing, he's still saying the right thing, if that makes sense.
In every episode, at 24 minutes in, he sits down on someone's bed and says, "Listen, Deej."
Listen, Deej.
and he sums up. There's always a lesson.
Yes. Yes. So
exactly.
When Michelle gets punished for the first time.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, yep.
This is no
sharing rooms.
No fun looking at the wall. And then he comes in again. Even when it's the wrong thing, he says the right thing. I love it. Derek, what about you?
Yeah. So there were a lot of TV shows I grew up with. One thing that really hit home with me, and looking back on it now, is Tony Maselli, aka Tony Danza from Who's the Boss?
Angela.
It was a total modern day, like, sort of role reversal too, right? She was the breadwinner of this house. He was a housekeeper that came to live with them. I think they were getting out of the city. He wanted to get his daughter out of like the bad territory or whatnot. And he also is a father figure to her son, Jonathan, as well, right? And then they had the mother-in-law, Angela's mother, Mona, living in the household too. So I really like the fact that they did this kind of modern day role reversal where he has a stereotypically female job and then she's the breadwinner. She kind of has like the stereotypical male kind of role in it where she's the director of the household and he's kind of the one that is trying to be sort of more like the mother figure to all these kids and emphasize to her like how important, being in her son's life is, right? And trying to like pass down those lessons to him. So I really dug the show dynamic for that because I think that was ahead of its time.
Late 80s, early 90s. Yeah. Like you could see that show happening today and it wouldn't, like no one would bat an eyelash. But back then, like that's what drew people in. It was like, who's the boss?
Yeah.
Tony Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
Who is the boss?
So who is the boss then?
Right.
I would say the boss was always Mona. The 60-year-old, woman who has a little too much, zip in her, sex drive.
Yeah, she was kind of like Blanche before Blanche for the Golden Girls, right?
Yes. Oh man, we could do a whole series on just I love.
No dads in the Golden Girls, but we should just do it anyway.
We should. Ian.
So, I mean, I thought Danny Tanner growing up, I mean, I watched a lot of Full House with my sister, you know, and I thought, and also bringing Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey into it as well. So I thought like the trifecta of those three together was like, you know, you got the fun dad and the cool dad, right?
Out.
Come on, cut it out.
Have mercy.
No Star World Soccer. Yeah, well, I mean, we got it. Yeah. So
Taglines.
Yeah.
Right. But then Dan Connor from Roseanne.
Yeah.
That's one that, you know, the other one that was on in my house all the time in the 90s was Roseanne. And I mean, who doesn't love John Goodman? Come on. He's such a great actor. That voice of his is incredible. And he's, you know, he's a bigger guy. He's a strong guy. He's funny. But then he has that emotional side too. Like he had those sit down on the bed, like, oh, you know, the strings start playing and like actually having real talks with Darlene or someone. And so I thought that's, you know, trying to strike that being funny with your kids, but also still not be, he was never like their friend. And I feel like that's something I feel like I'm always like fun dad. But like, I'm not my kids' friends. I'm their father.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you go too fun dad, then you're just trying to be your kid's friend all the time.
And he had
Whereas
this
I think it's a good,
interesting
balance.
dynamic with the boyfriends, Becky and Darlene's boyfriends.
oh, right.
Like he hated Becky's boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and then he hated David initially, Johnny Galecki, but like eventually he learned to love him, and
Right.
he's this big gruff dude, but you could see like out of like maybe all the TV dads we talked about, like I think he had the biggest heart. Like he did
have a big heart. Yeah.
Well, John Goodman is acting. He's so good that that turn in a scene.
Yeah.
He's so, you can feel it. It can just be on his face. He doesn't have to say anything. That emotion and the warmth and the love that he brought to things. And
I would say too, like in the when they rebooted it as the Connors with Roseanne being dead, like the way he played that, like I think very much, was kind of peak John Goodman in that acting, because we don't see that acting in a 22-minute sitcom all the time, right? But I think again I think he had the biggest heart out of all those TV dads. He really did. Like again, like if I was gonna think of like a TV dad that like I would want, like I'd want that. I'd want like a gruff TV dad with a heart of gold.
Three friends, all dads, exploring every dimension of being a geek.
What a trip down memory lane remembering all those TV dads. Whether serious, funny, or laughably oblivious, they've provided so many years of entertainment for us. Do you have a favorite one? Is there a TV dad that you or your partner are like? Reach out and let us know.
We're on your favorite socials at 3dimensional dads on Instagram and TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube and want to take us on the go, check us out on Apple and Spotify.
the next few episodes are going to be a blast. We're hitting the MCU hard with our review of Daredevil Born Again, our reaction to Thunderbolts, and our annual summer movie preview. So keep those notifications on for all the good stuff coming on 3-Dimensional Dads.